Chapter 9. A Growing Family. Found on page 59. We headed back to Cape Disappointment, which we named after we could not find any of our shipmates there. For this trip, I decided to take the whole family. We stopped and gathered more of the waxberries and found a nice spot to rest in a clearing between the sugar cane and bamboo. "Why not live here?" asked Jack. "It is lovely," I said, "but imagine a tiger coming out of the woods and trapping us here." We all looked into the woods and shared the worry. Still, we had to do our work. As it grew dark, our donkey ran off and the dogs chased it, but when the dogs came back, the donkey was not with them. We made a big fire, and I told the boys to sleep beside their weapons as we lay down nervously in the clearing. The next morning I left the bigger boys to protect their mother, and told Jack he could come with me to try and find our poor donkey. He was proud to be asked. After trudging for hours following the donkey's hoofprints, we saw that they joined with many others. Cutting our way through the forest, we came upon an amazing sight. Our donkey had joined a herd that stood by the river, a herd of giant buffalo. Before we could stop them, our dogs ran out into the herd and attacked the calf. The herd began to bellow and with a rush attacked us all at once, their horns flashing. We ran back toward the forest, but the leader of the herd, a giant, was already on top of us before we could reach it. At the last minute I pulled my pistol and shot him dead. This stopped the herd, and they turned tail to run. Still, our dogs were trying to take down the calf. Jack acted quickly, calling off the dogs and swinging his lasso at as the calf fell. All at once he had the calf by the feet, and I tied the other end of the rope to a tree. We now had ourselves a live buffalo calf to try and tame. The children named the calf Storm. We took what we could from the fallen buffalo, made a leash for our calf out of Jack's lasso, and walked him home. As we headed out, the dogs ran ahead. Suddenly, a pack of jackals appeared, drawn by the dead buffalo. They all fell into fight with our dogs. The dogs won this fight and chased away the pack. We did, however, manage to rescue one small jackal to take back with us. Getting back to our camp, we found our family excited at our new pets. Jack jumped about, telling the story of what had happened, bragging a little. I let him tell his stories. He had done well. The family had been busy too while we were gone. They had collected some wood that had washed up from the wrecked ship, and had gone hunting. Fritz had a young eagle by Cape Disappointment. We found a young eagle by Cape Disappointment. We decided to try to raise it as a hunting bird. As we headed back to the camp, the boys went for another walk, and began calling to me suddenly. I ran into the woods, thinking they were in danger, only to find them with our sow lying on her side, surrounded by piglets. Our family continued to grow. Chapter 10. A Tree with Stairs. Found on page 63. My wife asked if I could invent a way to reach our treehouse without having to climb the ladder. It was a good challenge, and the boys and I got to work on it. We thought we might carve steps inside the trunk if it was hollow, which we hoped it was. The boys looked in a hole in the tree trunk and found it hollow, but full of bees that came swarming out to attack them. We smoked the bees out by stopping up the hole with a hollowed piece of bamboo. I lifted up some hot coals from the fire and blew smoke from them through the bamboo until the bees were sleepy. We then quickly cut another hole in the trunk, and the bees flew out to get away from the smoke and were gone. We took what we could of their honey and wax, then carved the space where they had come out wider and wider until it was the size of a full door. Later, we attached a door from the ship to the hole in our tree with hinges we had taken from the ship. It was perfect. We spent several days hollowing out more of the tree to make our stairs and built wooden steps leading around the inside of the trunk. Soon we had a staircase, complete with a railing for holding. During our weeks of this work, our animals all had babies of their own. We trained our buffalo to till our fields. We tamed our jackals so that we could raise it with our puppies. I even trained our eagle and got Nips to ride the buffalo. One morning while we were working, we heard a very loud roaring. We had no idea what it could be. A lion? A gorilla? A tiger? We were all worried and climbed up to our house where we loaded the guns. Fritz and I decided it was best to go into the woods to find what it was, or we all would always be afraid. We snuck through the brush, fearing some monster beyond our understanding. As we grew nearer, the sound grew more intense. We cringed, cocked our guns, and pulled back the branches to find ourselves staring at a sight that had us laughing wildly. The sound was from our donkey, which had come home with a new friend, a wild donkey. We led them back to our camp by offering tidbits of food. It took us days to tame the wild one. I had to jump on its back and ride it to tire it out and calm it down. At long last it became calm and friendly. One night we took Nips to the woods to fill our sacks with acorns. The little monkey ran up a tree and discovered the eggs of a grouse. We covered them and took them back to our house where my wife kept them warm, wrapped in blankets by the fire. In a few days they hatched. My wife had been working with our birds and had raised more than 40 chickens. The grouse chicks added more birds to our growing flock. Ernest had been busy cutting long, thick grass for Franz to play swords with back at camp. Franz had the time of his life, dancing about and battling imaginary enemies. After examining his sword more closely, I noticed that it was a plant called flax. My wife was overjoyed. "If you can make me spindle, I can spin this flax in the yarn. We will all have new clothes." With that, we took our donkeys and buffalo and brought back all the flax we could. We worked extra hard before winter came to make stables on the grounds, stack away hay, and build a dairy, kitchen, and dining hall under our roof in our giant tree home. There was not much more time to get ready. We spent the next day storing potatoes, coconuts, acorns, sugarcane, and whatever other food we found as quickly as we could harvest them. Each day the sky grew darker and thunder rattled in the distance. Soon cool showers turned to icy cold and never-ending winter rains. The weather was fierce. Each day we had to take shelter in the trunk of our crowded treehouse. The smell of the animals was not pleasing, and the smoke from our fire made us cough. My wife brushed some of the rubber we had found onto our hooded shirts to make them waterproof. Soon she had made us full waterproof suits to wear. The days were long and hard. We tried to pass the time as best we could. I wrote all that had happened in my journal. My wife sewed, Ernest made sketches of birds, and Fritz and Jack taught little Franz to read. The weeks followed by. We were prisoners of the winter. It was a gloomy time for all. End of chapter 9 and 10.